on a red day across the screen, Carol, and I don't know if that was because of the earnings we got at Walmart, some of the economic data we got that was somewhat disappointing, or some of those comments that we got out of the new U.S. Treasury Secretary.
Yeah, I think yes, yes, and yes. And I mean, I think there's some concerns about the economic way forward, especially if you look at something like Walmart. You know, even with their high-end consumers, there's some concerns about maybe consumer spending. I keep looking at the KBW Bank Index. It's down about 2.3%. So add it all up, you're definitely seeing some major underperformance when it comes to some of those big bank names.
Should we be taking the Walmart guidance, though, with a grain of salt? Jen Bartashis over at Bloomberg Intelligence says that, and reminds us that the company oftentimes puts out a guidance, then lifts it later on in the year. So I don't know.
No, that's a good point. But, you know, just like all the other companies that have given guidance, Walmart did say that it didn't really explicitly include the potential impacts of tariffs because nobody knows. Nobody knows anything when it comes to tariffs.
I think one thing that also spooked people is we did get some other earnings out of Wayfair, out of Birkenstock, out of Freshpet, out of Carvana, a lot of consumer-facing companies. And their sort of guidance really wasn't all that much better. They weren't awful, but again, no one is sort of saying, "Oh yeah, everyone's just pulling out their their wallets to spend money." And I think maybe that's the concern, that if Walmart isn't benefiting, and they're supposed to benefit in good times and bad, then how are those other companies going to fare? Let's get you the closing bells. We have a slew of earnings coming after the bells here. So let's get you the numbers here. The Dow down about 450 points or 1%. The S&P lower by about 26 points or 0.4%. The NASDAQ composite is going to close lower by about 0.5%. And the Russell 2000 down 0.9%.
Quick check on the S&P 500, Romaine, and kind of an even split. 233 names to the upside. And Scarlet, you've got 268 to the downside.
All right, let's take a look at the IMAP. More red than green. Your worst performers are financials. Carol, you mentioned the KBW Bank Index. Consumer discretionary and consumer staples off by about 1% as well.
Booking Holdings out with its results right now. It looks like a beat on the bottom line here. 4Q adjusted EBITDA, $1.85 billion. The street was looking for $1.65 billion. On an EPS basis, $41.55 per share. The street was looking for $36.37 per share. Revenue in the quarter, also a beat here, $5.47 billion in revenue. The street was looking for 5.18. Gross bookings also a beat, 37.2 versus 34.47 on average. I'm going to look here for a forecast, but not quite seeing it jump out just yet, guys.
Yep, not seeing it yet, but booking shares, as you can see, up about 3.6% here in the aftermarket. Quick check on some of the movers in today's session. Got to point out Alibaba up about 8.10%. We did have a headline, Ryan Cohen, of course, boosting his stake to $1 billion, that from the Wall Street Journal. But the stock was up ahead of that after the company posted its fastest pace of revenue growth in more than a year. So showing a turnaround in its commerce business, also some big strides into the critical field of AI. Keep in mind those ADRs, highest intraday since about November of 2021. So really some outperformance. This stock, the ADR is up about 60% year to date, again on AI optimism and really Beijing's more supportive stance toward the private sector. So been kind of keeping a watch on this one for a while. Quick check on Hasbro. It's up almost 13% here at the close. A top gainer, number one gainer in the S&P 500. Company's fourth quarter adjusted EPS and operating margin topping street expectations. Management also provided medium-term growth targets and introduced its Playing to Win strategic plan. Stock is up more than 20% year-to-date. Quick. Let's go to Sprouts. Want to go to Sprouts?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
The ticker here is SFM for Sprouts Farmers Market. And we can tell you that the company says fourth quarter net sales came in at $2 billion, slightly higher than what was anticipated. Fourth quarter adjusted EBITDA, EPS, did beat analyst estimates as well, 79 cents. And in terms of first quarter comparable sales, the forecast, it sees at least 10% increase there, whereas the consensus estimate is for a 6.6% increase. That stock barely moving right now, but slightly higher.
Okay, let's go from one food provider to another. BJ's Restaurants shares are moving in the after hours. The company reported fourth quarter revenue that came in above estimates at $344.3 million. Fourth quarter loss per share that came in below estimates at 23 cents a share. Fourth quarter comp sales coming in above estimates at 5.5%. Taking a look at shares in the after hours, higher by about 3%.
All right, just got a few headlines here on Newmont. Let's get to it. Fourth quarter sales, $5.65 billion. That's a beat. The estimate was for $5.12 billion. Fourth quarter adjusted EPS of $1.40 a share. Again, that's some outperformance. estimates. The street was looking for about $1.06 a share. So their fourth quarter free cash flow also beating estimates. And this stock, which has been on quite a run already here in 2025, seeing a bump up, remain up about 3.7% here in the aftermarket.
Yeah, kind of interesting, too, to see some of those cash flow projections as well here. We're still waiting on some other earnings, including out of the Real, Texas Roadhouse, and in Rivian, something that I'm actually interested in here, given some of the concerns people have had about EV adoption and whether some of these upstarts, particularly in the wake of Nikola's bankruptcy, some of these upstart EV companies have a little bit more, I don't know, gas in the tank? Is that the right?
You can still say that.
What?
Makes sense.
I like
That's
the
all I
metaphor
got.
works. The metaphor works. I mean,
Electrons
more
in the
charge
battery?
left.
Electrons in the battery?
Electrons in the battery.
How does that work?
Okay, I go for that as well.
I just want to go back to, you know what? We have Dropbox results coming out. Dropbox saying fourth quarter EPS coming in at, on an adjusted basis, at 73 cents. That is 11 cents higher than the consensus estimate. Revenue was $643.6 million. That is also better than what was anticipated. Dropbox right now down about 1.4%. We're still looking for details on any kind of outlook that it's giving.
Okay, let's go to Texas. Texas Roadhouse shares are higher right now by about 2%. Fourth quarter revenue came in just above estimates at $1.44 billion. Fourth quarter earnings per share above estimates at $1.73. The company increasing its quarterly dividend to 68 cents a share. They also okayed a stock repurchase program of $500 million. Shares higher by 2% as we speak.
All right, just going quick backly to Newmont, because we're seeing that went up about almost 2% here in the aftermarket. Of course, a read on the mining. Some outlook sees 2025 attributable gold production about 5.9 million ounces. I'm looking for some kind of comparison, so I'll wait till we get that. Let's go on to Rivian.
Yeah, Rivian earnings are out, a loss per share, not unexpected here. 70 cents, revenue coming in at about $1.73 billion. That's well above what the street was looking for at about $1.39 billion. Company now says that it has about $5.3 billion in cash and cash equivalents. That's a little bit lighter than what the street was looking for. They were looking for roughly about $6 billion in cash on the books. And here's your forecast. The company's saying that for the full year, it expects to deliver 46 to 51,000 vehicles. That is below street estimates. The street on average was looking for deliveries of about 55,000. And as far as its adjusted EBITDA loss, the company says that for the full year, that loss will be in the range of $1.7 billion to $1.9 billion. Shares down about 4% here in the after-hours trade.
All right, let's take a look at Real, which is an online marketplace, consignment marketplace for luxury goods, coming in with fourth quarter revenue of $164 million. That matches the average analyst estimate. It did report a loss in the quarter, an adjusted loss of 1 cent per share. That was narrower than what analysts had anticipated. As for its outlook, it has maintained its first quarter revenue outlook, 157 to 161 million. The midpoint of that range does come in below the average analyst estimate, and it has also maintained its full year revenue and adjusted EBITDA outlook. So coming in higher than anticipated when it comes to the, or I should say better than expected when it comes to the bottom line for the fourth quarter, but the outlook is maintained.
All right, let's look at shares of Mercado Libre, which right now just surging in the after hours by 13%. The company reported fourth quarter net revenue that came in above estimates at $6.1 billion. The EPS, though, on the bottom line, that really came in above estimates at $12.61. Estimates were for $7.91. Shares right now jumping in the after hours by 11%.
All right, we also do have Live Nation just crossing the Bloomberg terminal. Fourth quarter revenue, $5.68 billion. That's pretty much in line. $5.63 billion was what the street was expecting. Fourth quarter adjusted operating income of $157.3 million. That's a little bit better than what the street was expecting. They were looking for $141 million. Stock is just little changed here in the aftermarket, guys, just down about 0.2%.
I just want to bring your attention real quickly to Floor and Decor. I mean, Mercado Libre was actually the biggest gainer in the after-hours trade. Now that title actually goes to Floor and Decor, a big maker of flooring, of course, for furnishings here. The company's given a forecast for 2025 that looks to, somewhat more bullish than what the street was looking for, $4.9 billion on the revenue side. On net sales, the street was looking for about 4.85, and the company says that comp sales should be up from 0 to 3%. The street was on average looking for about 1.8%, so the top end of that range would be almost double of what the street was looking for. Those shares up about 14% in the after-hours trade.
All right, a bunch of earnings here after the closing bell. well. All right, we'll watch and see how they continue to trade, and then, of course, carry them over into that Friday session. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Our cross-platform radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. We call it the closing bell. We'll see you again, same time, same place tomorrow.